are you guys today?
Fine.
Well, I'd like to start off saying thanks for having me, and I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story of while I was in the Marine Corps, why I joined the Marine Corps, and what I'm doing now. So, actually 20 years ago this month, I signed my life away. Well, not this month. It was in February, I'm sorry. And I was 17 years old. Of course, my mom and dad had signed for me. And my grandpa, which my mom's stepdad was a Marine, and he showed me all these videos. He goes, "Are you sure you want to join the Marine Corps?" Because the boot camp is very hard. You know, it's 13 weeks of hell is what they call it. You know, it's very, it's a lot of mind training, a lot of physical fitness. I mean, it's pretty hardcore. So he couldn't talk me out of it. So I left for boot camp 20 years ago in September the 16th of this year, 2002. And flew on a plane with nothing but my shirt and my pants and my driver's license. That's it. And I flew on a plane down to Paris Island, South Carolina. And we flew in on a plane. Then you meet a drill instructor in the airport. And he is not very nice. He is not welcoming at all. He goes, "Come here, sit down, read this book." So you're sitting there for about 3 o'clock in the morning. You're sitting there for about 4 hours reading Marine Corps knowledge is what they call it. So you're reading about the history of the Marine Corps in books like this thick. And they're making you read it until the rest of the recruits come in the airport. And so we're sitting there, everybody gets there, and then they load us all up on this bus. And I think it's in Charlotte. Charlotte is where we drove from. And we're on the bus, and we have to be quiet, and there's a lot of talk. Everybody has to put their heads down on the seat, and you're sitting there, and you're driving all the way to Paris Island. So then you get off the bus, and there's the yellow footprints. And he goes, "Everybody on the yellow footprints right now. Everybody on the yellow footprints right now." So you're getting out, and you gotta move fast, because he's screaming at you. You're standing there, and he said, "Stand at attention." Nobody knows what attention is. So you gotta put your heels together where the footprints are, put your feet back, and you just gotta stand there and don't say a word. And hold whatever is in your hand on your side, on your left side. And so we get in there, you have to call your parents, say, "Hey, made it safely," click, and then you get into boot camp. So boot camp starts off, more yelling, more screaming. You learn how to make your rack, you learn how to shoot. I'm just going to make a quick run through that because you want to join and you can find out the deep details of it. Okay. And I became a Marine December 13th, 2002. They handed me my Eagle anchor, which this is what they hand you, but it's black. It goes on your dress alphas, which are hanging up in the museum in Camden. So when my journey began, I went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri for my training. I was a truck driver in TBRs, which is like a giant Mack truck is what it is, and it's got 6 wheels. And from there, after I graduated there, I went to Okinawa, Japan. And I was deployed 4 or 5 different times. I went to Tokyo, went to North Korea, Thailand, Philippines. I had an opportunity to go to Russia, but I didn't get to go. And then I had an opportunity to go to Iraq. And my master sergeant, which I was a Lance Corporal at the time, which is an E3. And he said, "Saalman, you want to go to Iraq?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." I was all gung-ho, motivated Marine, you know. And of course, every Marine is going to want to go if everybody else is going. So he signed me up. I went to another base and attached to 3 infantry units, 3, 4, and 1, 6. Infantry units are the grunts, the gun guys. You know, the guys that go in on the ground and they shoot and do whatever they got to do. You know? And so I was attached to them as a female search Marine. So what I would do, my job was we kind of tried to respect the religion of that country. So they teach you Arabic. They teach you how to respect the women there. And the women there were not allowed to be touched by a man. So that was my job. I had to search women. You have to search their shoulders, their hips, their back, between their legs, underneath their ankles, make sure they didn't have any contraband that was coming into the country that we were being trained for. So we do our training, and actually I flew from Okinawa to San Diego, California, and we trained in 29 Palms Desert. That's where we did all of our desert warfare training before I went to Iraq. So we get into Iraq about 1 o'clock in the morning, Baghdad, and you get off the airplane, and once that airplane tail goes down, you just get this heat wave. And it's just, you're carrying about 80 pounds of your gear on your back. And you get on a bus, and then you go to, where did we go to? We didn't fly into Baghdad, did we? I'm trying to remember, hold on. Anyway, it doesn't matter, okay? We get there, we go to Fallujah. That's where I got stationed at, is Camp Fallujah. We were on, it was really late at night, so there's a curfew in the city, okay? So there's nobody out, it's just dark. And you're riding on your 7 tons, which are the trucks that I drive. But see, I didn't get to really do my job whenever I went to Iraq. I was a female to search. That was my job. So I had to ride in the back of the truck this time, and you have your weapon sticking out, and you're just waiting. If anybody moves, your job is to shoot if you need to. Luckily, we didn't have any problems between Baghdad and Fallujah. Okay. We get to Fallujah, we get into training. So they start training you how to search these people. They take you into the city of Fallujah, and there's all these different checkpoints where they put all these different Marines, and we work with the Army sometimes we work with Seabees, Navy Seabees. Those are like the contractors of the Navy, the people that build stuff. Okay, and so we work with a lot of them too. And eventually, the sergeant that was in charge, I had already been promoted to corporal, which is E4 at the time, and I got put in charge of 22 female Marines and a few soldiers and a few Seabees. And every day, we'd get up at 3, 4, and 5. So we picked different hours because you had to go at different times every day because you didn't want the enemy to know where you were going to be at the exact time. So every day we'd load up, we'd get a head count, we'd load up on the trucks in the back of these MTVRs. And you guys do not know what an MTVR is. So do you have internet on your computer?
No.
No? I'll show you what MTVR is. Should have brought a picture. Because then you'll kind of be able to see what we're talking about. I should have looked this up already. Hold on. Alright, this is what they look like. This is exactly what they look like. So if you just don't touch the screen, you can just cut. You just want to show it up there? Ah, there we go. Yeah. This. Right here.
It's not touching.
Oh, sorry.
We're not that fancy.
Okay, can we show it? I'm still trying to zoom in here. How do I get it up on the big screen? Just put it up on the big screen. Because once you see it, then I can explain to you what. Can you clip it as one big picture? There we go. Okay, here we go. This is the MK-23 right here. When I first went to Iraq, the war had only been going on for 3 years. So it started in 2003. This is 2005 whenever I went there. So that's before we had any up armor. We had armor. Can you guys see this? We had armor back here, but it was only up to our chest. Okay, and our little bobbleheads with our helmets on would be sticking out. So we'd have 14 Marines in the back, and you'd have your gunner with a 50 caliber machine gun. Or a grenade launcher, and then you have your driver and your passenger. So that's what we were riding in every single day. We load up in those trucks every day, and then we go to Fallujah, and we'd separate within a base that was inside. We'd take Humvees out to different checkpoints. So every day, you'd have women come through with their burqas. They'd be completely covered in black. Their faces would be covered, their hair would be covered, because in their religion, they're not allowed to show any parts of their body, because they're still stuck in a different century. So we had people, there was intel that we kept hearing that they were going to attack the female Marines, specifically, okay? So we were targeted, and it lasted, they kept hearing this, it lasted for about a month. This is we started hearing about it end of May, beginning of June, and we just had to keep our heads on a swivel, keep an eye on what's going on. And so we're still searching these people, and there was a sandstorm that hit probably the Thursday, June the 22nd. Okay, we had a sandstorm. And what happens is the sandstorm becomes so bad you can only see 2 feet in front of your face. So this is whenever they would take the time to set their bombs. sets their plans, get insurgents, which are the Taliban, or what we would call the bad guys. Those are the guys that would come in during the sandstorm when we couldn't see them. Even infrared would have a hard time seeing this. They would just infiltrate over time in the sandstorm. And the sandstorm lasted the whole day. So the next day we were kind of on high alert. We're like, okay, we gotta keep a closer eye on roadside bombs, suicide bombers, random shots that would kind of ping the truck every once in a while. You just gotta keep an eye out for them. So that was that Thursday. So Friday morning, I got everybody loaded up. We got a head count. We went out at like 3 in the morning. We loaded everybody up. Went to all of our checkpoints that day, and about 4 o'clock in the evening, we got back to the center of the city, and we loaded everybody up. So I got my 14 people, my 14 Marines, actually 13 Marines, 1 Navy Seabee, and the convoy commander, which is my truck. Let's just say this is my truck. Got my convoy commander, my 50 caliber machine gunner, and my driver. And we are the 3rd vehicle in the convoy, and there's another MTVR behind us, and it's full of Marines that are, it's like we call it the food truck, because they would bring the hot chow out in the evenings for the Marines out in the city. And I don't remember how many Marines were on, but those were all male Marines. So there was a lot of controversy on why the female Marines were separate from the male Marines. And I had to keep explaining to people, we were our own platoon. We were doing our own thing, that's why we were separated. Not because of our gender, because that was our job. And so women Marines weren't really, well, even women at all, back at that time, this is 15 years ago, we're not allowed to technically be in combat situations. The Iraq War changed all of that. It put us all in danger just like everybody else, okay? And so anyway, we had, I think there was six or 8 vehicles. So you got your two MTVRs, you got 2 Humvees in front, and probably 2 to 3 in the back. And what happens is when you're driving a convoy, you're going about 50, 60 miles an hour down these main roads because you're not going to stop. You're going to keep going, okay? And when you have one Humvee that drives up, and if there's any intersections, he would stop the traffic there, and our convoy would go ahead through. And then the next Humvee would keep going, and then you'd have one from the back take his place. And we were kind of protecting the convoy going through. You need to protect each other is what you do. Well, they stopped this one truck, and they stopped him just in time, and he stopped, and he waited. And the first Humvee got by, and we're a good, probably 5 vehicle distance between each vehicle. If there was an explosion or anything, you can see what happens. Well, this truck was like the size of a Chevy S10. Do you guys know what that is? A little bitty pickup truck, like a little Ford Ranger. I think it was a Toyota or something. I don't know, but he had a load of propane tanks. And he was in the driver's seat, and they stopped him. Well, what happened was when we went by, he set himself to where he floored it, and he went around, and he drove right underneath our truck. Well, you can't see it now, but it died, I think. Well, anyway, see these 2 wheels right here? This is the fuel tank right there. He hit us on the opposite side of the fuel tank, and he went right underneath of our truck, and he exploded. He had a bomb on that truck, and it blew up our truck going 60 miles an hour. So I'm sitting there, I'm aiming out. I had just saw the Blue Mosque. You guys can probably look it up later, the Blue Mosque in Fallujah. And beautiful building, but it had holes in it, and it was all shot up. And I remember seeing it, and you could feel the truck drive over something. And then you have an explosion, the truck catapulted, and it kind of tumbled across the way. And I'm flying through the air, and all I see is my feet up in the air, and I collapsed on the ground. And then I woke up running, and what we were doing, we had ran behind this wall. Of course, I'm blacked out at the time, but I'm still doing this stuff, apparently. And with my fellow Marines, because other people were dragging them out of the ones that did not make it catapulted out of the truck were killed. Okay. I had 3 of the Marines. They were dragging the CB out. She didn't make it, and we were carrying the other person on our shoulders. So as we were carrying these people, we started getting shot at. So we had these bullets flying by us while we're trying to get behind this wall, and they couldn't get to us yet because the truck it just exploded. So this all happens within 3 minutes, okay? It's a 3-minute time frame. So everything seems like it's like a slow motion. So I had this person on my shoulder. I'm yelling for a weapon because my weapon got blown out of my hands because my hands caught fire. Both of my hands and my back and underneath my hair, everything was just burning, okay? It was mostly heat for me. I saw a little bit of flame, but at this point, when I saw my hands on fire, I just still didn't know what was going on before I got catapulted out of the truck. But my weapon flew out of my hands. So I was able to get a hold of a weapon, and it was an M16, but it had an empty grenade launcher on it, so it was twice as heavy. So an M16 with ammunition in it is about 8 pounds. An M16 with a grenade launcher on it is almost 10 pounds with ammunition. So my hands were, I didn't feel any pain, okay, because your adrenaline's pumping so hard and you're shooting back at whatever is shooting at you. You can't really see them. All you see is where the gunshots are coming from. So you're just aiming and trying to get to the other truck. So the girl next to me, her legs were all torn up, like from her knees down, because her legs got burned, because she was facing toward the explosion, and I was facing away from the explosion. So we run up there. One girl had a piece of shrapnel go through her leg, and one of the Marines from the second truck had jumped off, and he was doing cover fire for us, because I had to quit shooting and get my weapon so I could get up into the truck. And there was so he was shot right underneath his armor, right into his stomach, and it killed him. And then we had a Marine, he was EMT, he's a reserve, most of these guys are reservists. A lot of the grunts are reservists, a lot of people understand how that works. So as a reservist, you get sent, you're like some of the ones that get sent first. The reservist does. And if you're active duty, you go after the reservist a lot of the time. In this situation, that's how that happened. And we had a lot of reservists working with us. And he was an EMT, so he grabbed up the girl that had a hole in her leg, and they put her in the food trailer. Because we didn't have room on the truck for, 30-some people. So some people were riding to the trailer, some people we were just piled onto the back of that truck. And once we got in that truck, they got the 50 caliber machine gun going, and they were just tearing up the whole top of the side of these buildings trying to get these guys down. And eventually, you guys ever seen like any type of war movie where everything is kind of like, what do you call it, like a whistling noise? Like, or somebody wakes up, that's what it's like. So you have that explosion, you can't hear anything, it's just all echoing, you're kind of like in a daze, and you're like trying to figure out what just happened. And when I was blacked out, I said, "Oh, Hail Mary, full of grace." I started praying in my mind, because I'm blacked out, I don't know what's going on. I come out and we're running, that's whenever we ended up going with the truck and everything. And when we got into the truck, we're all sitting there and we're just driving back, and I just started singing. I started singing. I had just sang for a memorial for a Marine that was killed by an RPG. The RPG had shot him in the stomach and it was stuck there. And he had to tell everybody to get away because he was getting ready to explode. And we had a memorial service for him that day before the sandstorm day. So I had sang the America the Beautiful for his memorial service. So I started singing America the Beautiful. And I was singing all the way back to Fallujah. Of course, I have people where there's just blood all over the floor of the truck. My hands were white. They were charred, completely charred white. And I have a doc sitting here, poor guy, he's just shaking. And he's putting this cream on my hands, and it just was just so much pain, so much, very, very painful. Okay. Luckily, I only had shrapnel to my ankle. I had third-degree burns on my hands and my back, flash burns on my face and my neck, because you have to wear long sleeves. That's why you always wear long sleeves and gloves and all your gear whenever you're doing all these things, and a helmet. And I had a really bad concussion, so sometimes I have a hard time and now I'm thinking about it. I stutter sometimes just because of the head injury. So, and I'm still suffering from that today, my head injury. I'm doing okay. So, we get back to Fallujah, and I start counting heads, because I'm in charge of these people. So everybody's coming up to me, I have these water bottles on my hands, and I'm having to count heads, get my book out. My book that was, completely melted, but I was still able to open it and find the names of these people. And I said, we're missing so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so. And we just started counting them off, and we lost six people that day. And we had 25 casualties, as in injuries. And then They flew most of them out from Fallujah. I didn't get flown out till later because my injuries were minor compared to the rest of them. A lot of girls got skin grafts on their arms because they were right behind the explosion. We had vertebrae broken. One girl, her face was completely burnt, like completely burned off. And then over time it's taken in. I saw her not too long ago and her face is finally getting back to somewhat normal. And she had gear on too, and the gear, because of the type of explosion it was, because you got the fuel that exploded too. Well, the fuel didn't explode, but it caught fire and splashed. Does that make sense? Because diesel fuel does not explode. It just burns. So, but you're still splashing it, and the truck's flying. So can you imagine going 60 miles per hour and a truck driving between you, underneath the truck, and you catapulting over the truck? I mean, it's just, I'm surprised I'm standing here today, and I still think about that, and that was 2005. That was 15 years ago, 16 years ago, you know. So I got flown to Germany that night, and they strap you in a helicopter. Strap you in, take you to Germany, and they don't do anything with your burns. They don't touch your burns, they just wrap your hands. They don't mess with them. What they do, and they send you to San Antonio, California, San Antonio, Texas, Brooks Army Medical Center, where they put you on a table and they scrub all of your flesh, that the dead flesh is off of you. So I only have my hands and my back, but I can imagine, you know, what the girls that were burnt on their legs and their arms and their chests, or the people that were completely burned. You know, there was Marines there before us; their whole bodies were burned, and they have to scrub all that infection off because burns are just very, very dangerous. But I get to Brooks Army Medical Center, and I was there for 3 months for recovery. I was an outpatient, luckily, and then I got transferred. You know, I stayed in the Marine Corps for another 3.5 years. It took me about 8 months to heal from my injuries, and I swam every day because I could not run on this leg, and that's how I stayed in shape. Mentally, I just kind of ignored everything in my head for a long time and just kept on going. And I did a second tour in 2007. 2007, it was a little bit the same, but I was actually a driver, assistant convoy commander, and a sergeant at the time. So I got stationed in San Diego, but Camp Pendleton, California, and then we went on a Marine Expeditionary Unit with the Navy. And we went back to Iraq, and it was actually nice to see Fallujah was being built back up again. And this is 2 years later. And I drove to that same spot every day, and drove by the Blue Mosque every day, and saw the burnt up Michelin man every day, because that was something that was on our route. So we took that route all the time because we would deliver food and stuff on my second tour. And the reason why I stayed in, because I wasn't going to let those insurgents get me down, so I had to go back the second time. So after doing my second tour, I decided that my mind and my body could not do the ruthless physical things anymore. So I got out in 2008, came home, and I met my husband, and now I have a cattle farm. So, do you guys have any questions at all?
Okay, so how old were you when you first went to Iraq, and then?
I was 20 years old whenever I went to Iraq the first time in 2005. I turned 21 while I was in Iraq, because I left in the end of February.
Okay, and then the second time you were how old?
The second time I went to Iraq, I would have been 22, 23.
Okay.
Yes.
2007 was when we were born.
That's when you were born? Man, I feel old. It's okay. It's okay.
What was the highest rank you ever had?
This one right here, sergeant. Because I was only in for 6 years. I was up for staff sergeant before I got out. But I decided that it was time to get out. So, and look, they changed these uniforms actually too. This is obsolete now apparently. Now all the female Marines and the male Marines are dressed the same now. The male Marines have 4 buttons and they go all the way up to the collar. And then their covers are different. We call them covers. We don't call them hats. And I received my Purple Heart in 2005 while I was in the hospital in San Antonio. And I also received the NAM with Valor because of my actions, I guess, what I did Some of it I don't remember, some of it I do, but that's what I was told I did. So this is a Navy Achievement Medal is what it's called. Good Conduct Medal. This one is because I behaved myself. I didn't get NJP'd.
You didn't get caught.
They call it the Good Cookie. That's what they call it. Goody Two-Shoes Marines. A lot of Marines say you get this every 4 years. So if you're good for 4 years, you get it, and then if you're bad for the next 2 years, you don't get a star for that 4 years, and it just kind of goes on and on. This is also a 4-year bar. I don't remember what they're called, but anyway, 4 years, and then every 4 years you get a bar. And these are the times I went to these are Iraqs, and this is because we were at war at the time. Everybody gets one of these if there's a war going on. And these are all just Iraq medals. Is what they're called. I have 2 of these.
Very jingle.
No?
Very jingle.
Yeah, they are jingly, aren't they? And this is my combat action ribbon right here. And this is my Iraq campaign.
Sally, was that, the event happened to you, was that the first time the females had ever been attacked? Is that?
So there have been women attacked in Iraq. I don't know if you remember the soldier, the female soldier her name was, oh my gosh.
She got captured.
Yeah, she was captured. I do not know the whole details of her. She was one of the first ones captured, but there were a lot of women that were killed in combat. Our particular situation was we had the most women injured and attacked, and that the fact that we were a focus on the attack. So their goal was to kill us specifically, because I hate to say this, but that was the Taliban hated women that that have freedom, that can do whatever they want, they can wear what they want. Does that make sense? So they didn't like the fact that we were searching their women and catching them with contraband. We actually had men walk in dressed as women before, and we searched them, and that was a cue, as in, oh, this guy's not supposed to be here. He's doing something he's not supposed to do. And we had contraband, like huge amounts of American cash would come in, or just bomb ordnance, anything that's not supposed to be there. We had a list and stuff, and that was pretty scary every day because you go out. I worked at Blackwater, was what they call Blackwater Bridge. It's the bridge that goes over the Niger River, not the Niger River. What's the name of that river? I think so. It's the one right there outside of Fallujah. And it's actually palm trees. It's actually really nice there. There's some beautiful green grass up near the rivers. Iraq's a pretty interesting place. But I love the Marine Corps. I had to get out because of my injuries. But if I would not have been injured, I'd probably still be in. I'd probably be retiring right now. But that's okay. I'm back here in Perry County. And that's most of my story. There's so much more, but I could keep you guys all day long. Some of the stuff that I could tell you. So. But that was my job, truck driver. I was also a marksman instructor. So I taught people. I went to the range with people, and I helped them make sure their shooting was better, and taught weapons instruction, weapon safety. You know, I did all of that too. So, but I did that all mostly in Okinawa, Japan. So, but I was also at a Camp Schwab, and I had the commander of Camp Schwab tell me, "No, they're not supposed to be here, Marie." I go, "Sir, what do you mean?" He goes, "Well, this base is not meant for women, men only." He goes, "I don't know how you all there was only 9 of us on the same base, on this entire base, just 9 female Marines." And that's another thing that has changed recently. Women are allowed to pretty much go wherever, and they can be infantry. I worked with infantry. I actually trained with infantry. You know, yeah, I drove a truck, but the fact that I was a truck driver, I got to learn all the different MOSs. I learned how to do stuff with engineers. Engineers use a lot of C4, so I learned how to make different types of explosives to take out ditches and stuff. I drove a D4 dozer a couple times, helping them dig a ditch. You know, it just depends on who you're driving for that day is what you learn. So, because you're not allowed to just sit in the truck, they make you do stuff with them. So, I learned a lot when I was in the Marine Corps. I really did. And ship was fun. And I went across ship with my second tour with the MU. We were on actually my ship just burnt up like last year. the USS Bonhomme Richard. That's the one that I deployed on my second tour. So, and she was a pretty new ship at the time, and she caught fire in San Diego. I don't know if you guys saw that on TV or anything recently. Yeah, she burned up. That was my ship. So, but they're a little bit smaller than aircraft carriers. So, and I've done a lot of things in the Marine Corps. So, if you have any more questions. Any of you guys ever interested in joining the military at all?
Me?
You? What do you want to do in the military?
I want to be the ones that, like, be like the security ones to check if people.
Oh, like military police?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys are awesome. They get to work with the dogs, like the canines and stuff. We had a lot of canines that were on our, with our unit. They would check for bombs. So the cars would come in, the women would get out, we'd search the women, the dogs would check the vehicles, and the men would search the men. So we dealt with the MPs all the time, called it MPs, in the Marine Corps. So, but I choose the Marine Corps though, if I were you. I think you'd like the Marine Corps. Yes.
I would just like to be in the Navy.
Just be in the Navy? There's nothing wrong with the Navy.
No,
Did you know the Marine Corps is a department of the Navy? We learn to swim, we learn to do all the Navy stuff. We just don't drive the ships. We're not allowed to drive the ships. They're our taxis. And they Marines are like children in a way of the Marine Corps. They're the children of the Marine Corps. You have to like keep them occupied. Because on a ship, we're not allowed to do anything. All we can do is go to the gym and exercise and do martial arts. That was what we were allowed to do, and we had to do Marine Corps knowledge again. Reading those books. Marine Corps knowledge, Marine Corps knowledge. So, and that gets drilled into you pretty much.
My Uncle Craig was in the Army for a little bit.
There's nothing wrong with the Army, guys. They have a huge amount of things that you can do in the Army. I like the Marine Corps personally because it's a smaller group, and let's just say once you go in the Marine Corps, you can go to other branches, but you don't have to go to their boot camp. Now, if you go to Army boot camp and you decide you want to be a Marine, you have to go to Marine Corps boot camp. So it just depends on what you want to do. I don't know how old it is now. That was, like I said, I joined 20 years ago and I got out in 2008. So a lot has changed since 2008 and now with, women Marines even. There's so many new MOSs. We got rid of our tanks. The Marine Corps got rid of their tanks. I don't know who's in charge of tanks anymore. But we still have the MTVRs. So those were very, very fun trucks to drive. They were brand new when I first went in. I was trained on them, got sent to Okinawa, and then I was driving 5-ton trucks. Because we didn't have them in Okinawa yet. So I got retrained on the old stuff. But yeah, I love the Marine Corps. That's most of my story. And thank you guys for listening. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can get together again sometime.
Yeah, thank you for your standing ovation.
I didn't do that.